Kayla, why do you look so lost? Are you okay? Todd's warm breath mixed with the frosty air. His concern seemed genuine, but I could feel the tears threatening to spill. Forcing a smile, I answered, "Just thinking. Let's go home and enjoy the stew I've been preparing." As we walked, the city around us bustled in Christmas cheer. The streets were lined with twinkling lights and families enjoying the season. I clung to Todd's arm, dreading the evening ahead. Our apartment, though small, was cozy and warm. Todd shrugged off his coat and tossed it over the couch, then headed straight for the kitchen. He lifted the lid on the stew pot, inhaling deeply. "Smells good," he remarked, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. I nodded, placing freshly baked bread on the table. We sat down to eat, but the tension in the room was palpable. Todd's initial warmth had faded, replaced by a cold demeanor I recognized all too well. I focused on my bowl, hoping we could get through the meal without incident. "Did you see that new couple moving in next door?" Todd asked abruptly. Caught off guard, I nodded again. "They seemed nice," I said, trying to sound casual. "Seem nice?" Todd's voice hardened. "You talked to them without telling me first?" "I just said hello, Todd. It wasn't a big deal." I kept my voice calm, my hands nervously gripping my spoon. "It is a big deal. I told you to always tell me when you talk to people." He glared at me, and I felt a familiar chill creep in. His control over me had grown stronger over the years. I used to believe his intentions were protective, born out of love. But now, sitting across from him, I saw the truth, an illusion of perfection masking a man who thrived on power and control. After dinner, Todd retreated to the living room, leaving me to clean up. I could hear the TV blaring in the background, but I stayed in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes with a focus that helped numb my thoughts. The water was scalding, but I welcomed the pain. It was a distraction. "Kayla!" Todd's voice cut through my trance. I quickly dried my hands and walked into the living room. He was on the couch, remote in hand, eyes glued to the screen. "Yes?" I asked softly. "Bring me a beer." I headed to the fridge, grabbed a can and handed it to him. He didn't look at me, his focus was solely on the game. I stood there for a moment, waiting for some acknowledgement, some sign that he saw me. But nothing came. I was invisible to him, a mere shadow in the background of his life. Finding my voice, I said, "I'm going to bed, Todd." He grunted in response, and I turned away, heading to our bedroom. As I lay in the dark, memories of happier times bubbled up. Nana's comforting words, her wisdom about finding happiness beyond the darkness. I clung to those memories tightly, using them as a shield against the creeping despair. With Nana's words echoing in my mind, I made a silent vow. Somehow, I would find my happiness. I wouldn't let this cold, controlling life define me. As I drifted off to sleep, the city's twinkling lights were now a distant memory, replaced by the suffocating walls of our apartment and the man who trapped me within them. Little did Todd know his grip was not as strong as he thought. And one day, he would learn that the hard way. "No hot sauce? Seriously, Kayla? You can't even handle a simple grocery list." Todd's voice boomed through our small apartment, his face flushed with anger. I flinched, trying to keep my composure. "I'm sorry, Todd, I must have forgotten. I'll get it tomorrow." "Forget it. You always forget. What's the point of you if you can't do anything right?" His words stung, each one a jab at my already bruised spirit. I nodded silently, refusing to let him see how his words cut me. Instead, I busied myself setting the table for breakfast. Todd stormed out of the kitchen, his footsteps heavy on the wooden floor. As I poured the coffee, Nana's voice echoed in my head, her comforting presence always a source of strength. "You'll face struggles, but you'll find happiness beyond the darkness." I wished she was here now. I could almost see her sitting at the small round table, her kind eyes filled with wisdom. But those days were gone, and I was left to navigate this overwhelming loneliness. Todd's job kept him out of the apartment during the day, which was my only solace. I planned to visit Nana today, hoping her familiar scent of lavender and old books would offer some relief. In the afternoon, I grabbed my coat and headed to Nana's house, the cold air biting at my cheeks. Her home, a small, cozy haven, welcomed me with open arms. As I stepped inside, the warmth enveloped me, and for a brief moment, I felt safe. "Kayla, there's my beautiful girl," Nana greeted me with a gentle hug. "Come, sit down, have some tea." We sat at her modest kitchen table, the steam rising from our mugs. I watched Nana as she moved around, her frail frame a stark contrast to the powerhouse of strength she embodied. "How's it going, dear?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I hesitated. "It's been hard, Nana. Sometimes I feel so alone." Nana reached across the table, her hands gripping mine with surprising strength. "I've always told you, Kayla, you'll face struggles, but you have a fire in you. You'll find happiness. Remember that." I nodded, absorbing her words like a sponge, desperate for any bit of hope. As we talked, memories of my childhood flooded back. Sundays spent baking cookies with Nana, her laughter filling the air. She was my rock, the one constant in a world spinning out of control. After a long afternoon of sharing stories and sipping tea, I felt lighter somehow. Nana's unwavering belief in me sparked a glimmer of hope. I hugged her tightly before leaving, her soft voice a whisper in my ear. "Stay strong, Kayla. Better days are coming." Back at the apartment, the coldness hit me as soon as I stepped inside. Todd was sprawled on the couch, a beer in his hand, eyes glued to the TV screen. "Where have you been?" he demanded without looking up. "Visited Nana," I replied, hanging my coat. "Well, it's about time you got home. Make sure you don't forget the hot sauce tomorrow." I swallowed my frustration, nodding silently. As I prepared dinner, Nana's words played over in my mind, a silent chant to keep me going. Better days are coming, I told myself over and over, clinging to that flicker of hope. Todd's grip might be suffocating, but Nana's wisdom gave me strength. Somehow, I would find the courage to break free. One day, Todd would realize that his control was slipping, and my resilience would be his downfall. I awoke the next morning, feeling the weight of yesterday's visit to Nana still lingering. Her words cycled through my mind, giving me a faint sense of strength. But Todd's looming presence was a constant reminder of my reality. By midday, after completing my chores, I decided to head back to Nana's. Her home was my sanctuary, the only place where I felt any semblance of peace. I slipped out quietly, not wanting to wake Todd, who was sprawled on the couch, snoring lightly from last night's binge. Arriving at Nana's, I instantly felt calmer. She greeted me with her usual warmth, pulling me into a tight embrace. "You look tired, dear. Come and sit down," she said, leading me to the kitchen. We settled at the table, and she poured us both a cup of tea. The familiarity of her actions was comforting. "Nana, I've been thinking a lot about what you said," I admitted, tracing my finger along the edge of the cup, "about facing struggles and finding happiness." "Good," she replied, her eyes meeting mine with a knowing look. "Remember, Kayla, you'll find happiness beyond the darkness." I nodded, feeling the resolve build up inside me. "Thank you, Nana. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll find your way, Kayla, although the path might be hard." Feeling lighter, I left Nana's house and returned to our apartment. The weight of Todd's presence hit me immediately upon entering. He was awake now, sitting at the table with a scowl etched on his face. "What took you so long?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing. "I was visiting Nana again," I explained, setting my bag down. "You're always running off there. Maybe you should move in with her," he sneered. Ignoring his comment, I went to the kitchen to start dinner. The silence was thick, filled with unspoken tensions. I could feel Todd's eyes boring into my back as I prepared the meal. Later that evening, as we were eating, Todd's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his demeanor shifted, a sly smirk appearing on his lips. Curiosity piqued, I watched as he typed something back, quickly and secretively. "You seem happy," I noted, unable to mask the bitterness in my voice. "I just got some good news from work," he replied nonchalantly, not looking up. After dinner, I cleaned up, my mind whirling with suspicions. Todd's secretive behavior had been growing, and my gut told me there was more to it than just work. As I lay in bed that night, Nana's words reverberated in my mind, offering a small but significant comfort. The path was undeniably hard, but I had to believe that happiness waited for me, somewhere beyond the turmoil. The next day, while Todd was at work, I decided to take a small step towards reclaiming my freedom. I visited a nearby real estate office, inquiring about small, affordable apartments. I didn't make any commitments, but gathering information was the first step towards my eventual escape. Returning home later that day, I felt a mixture of fear and empowerment. Todd was already back and met me with his usual chilly disposition. "Where have you been?" he snapped, his tone accusatory. "Just running errands," I replied casually, refusing to meet his gaze. His eyes scanned my face, searching for any hint of defiance. Finding none, he retreated to his usual spot on the couch. I busied myself with mundane tasks, my mind buzzing with the possibilities that stretched ahead. Nana's words continued to echo in my mind, a beacon guiding me through the darkness. I wasn't sure how or when, but I knew that one day I would break free. And Todd would see just how strong I could be. The day started out normal. I was grocery shopping, crossing items off the list, trying to keep my mind focused. But a strange weariness had settled over me. I ignored it, convincing myself it was just the stress of everything weighing me down. As I reached for a box of cereal, a dizzy spell hit me hard. My vision blurred, the sounds around me became distant. Before I could react, everything went dark. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. The sterile smell filled my nostrils. A nurse noticed I was awake and rushed to my side. "You're at St. Mary's Hospital," she explained softly. "You fainted in the grocery store. We ran some tests." Confusion and fear churned within me. What tests? What did they find? The doctor walked in, carrying a clipboard. His expression was serious. "Mrs. Smith, I'm Dr. Martin. We need to discuss your results." My heart pounded. "What's wrong with me?" Dr. Martin took a deep breath. "Your blood work revealed an infection. It's an STD, Mrs. Smith, chlamydia." I stared at him, my world collapsing. "That's impossible. I've only been with my husband." Dr. Martin looked at me with a mix of pity and concern. "This type of infection typically spreads through sexual contact. It's important you inform your partner and seek treatment." Numbness washed over me as Dr. Martin continued talking, but his words became a distant echo. Todd. He had to be the source. I couldn't believe he betrayed me like this. Back at the apartment, Todd was sitting on the couch, half watching TV. I stormed in, my anger boiling over. "Todd, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaking. He barely glanced at me. "What now, Kayla?" I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. "I've never been with anyone else, Todd. Who did you give this to me from?" Todd's head snapped up, his face turning pale. "What are you talking about?" "The doctor found an STD, Todd," I said, my voice cracking. "Chlamydia. Who else have you been sleeping with?" He stood up, his eyes blazing. "Are you accusing me of something?" "Who else would it be?" I shouted back. "I've only ever been with you. You did this to me." For a moment, Todd looked like he was going to deny it, but then his expression shifted to something colder. "You know what, Kayla? Maybe if you weren't so useless at home, I wouldn't have needed someone else." The room spun around me. His words cut deeper than any knife. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. You betrayed me," I whispered. Todd scoffed. "Get over it. It's not the end of the world." But to me it felt like it was. Any hope I had clung to was shattered. The dream of a family, children, and a life full of love was obliterated in an instant. "Get out of my sight," he spat, storming out of the room. I was left alone in the cold, empty apartment, my body racked with sobs. Nana's voice echoed softly in my mind, offering a small, fragile comfort amidst the tumult. "Stay strong, Kayla. Better days are coming." As broken as I felt, a new resolve settled in my heart. Todd had taken much from me, but he wouldn't take my hope. One way or another I would break free from his grasp, and he would pay for every tear he forced me to shed. "I'll obey you, Todd, but remember, you asked for this," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the kettle whistling on the stove. Todd paid no attention to my words, lost in his phone, his face illuminated by the screen's blue light. He smirked and shrugged, barely looking up. "Good girl." Inside, I seethed with a mixture of rage and determination. His casual dismissal only fueled my drive. That night, as he slept peacefully, I quietly slipped out of bed and headed to the closet. I pulled down an old suitcase and began packing the essentials. I made sure to be quiet, each rustle of fabric sounding deafening in the silence of the night. The next few days, I tread carefully, making sure not to alert Todd to my plans. I stashed money away, small amounts here and there, enough to get me started once I left. I contacted a few friends I could trust, securing a place to crash temporarily. Every interaction with Todd became an act. My compliance was strategic. My silence was a weapon. It was all part of a plan he never saw coming. "Did you remember the groceries?" Todd asked one evening, not looking up from his dinner. "Yes, I picked everything up," I replied, handing him the receipt without a second thought. "Good," he muttered, his attention completely on the TV. His complacency disgusted me, but it also worked in my favor. That weekend, Todd had a work event he couldn't get out of. He left the apartment early, suited up and ready to impress. I watched from the window as his car pulled away. As soon as he was out of sight, I sprang into action. I pulled out the hidden suitcase from under the bed and added the final items. I grabbed the envelope of cash I had stashed behind a loose brick in the wall. Every move was made with precision, every step a part of my silent resolve. I had already secured a temporary place with my friend Jenny, who had been more than supportive when I confided in her. "You can stay as long as you need," she had assured me over the phone, her voice calm and steady. With everything packed, I took a final look around the apartment. This place had held so much promise once. Now it was just a cage, suffocating and cold. My eyes landed on a photo of Todd and me from happier times. I picked it up, feeling the weight of lost dreams in my hands. Then, with a deep breath, I set it down gently on the coffee table and walked out the door. As I locked the door behind me, I felt a strange mixture of fear and relief. Fear of the unknown and relief from the oppressive life I was leaving behind. I hurried to meet the cab waiting for me at the entrance of our building. As we sped away, I couldn't help but glance back one last time. The building shrank from view, and with it, the remnants of my life with Todd. Arriving at Jenny's place, she greeted me with a warm hug. "You're safe here," she reassured me. For the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to believe her. As I settled into the guest room, Nana's words echoed in my mind. "Stay strong, Kayla. Better days are coming." As I lay down that night, I felt a spark of hope bloom amidst my exhaustion. Todd had underestimated me greatly. He might have broken my heart, but my spirit was far from defeated. The real journey was just beginning, and this time I would be the one in control. "Why didn't you tell me about the STD, Todd? Who else are you sleeping with?" My voice cut through the quiet room like a knife as Todd entered our old childhood home, now vacant, except for the memories that clung to the walls. Todd's face twisted in shocked anger. "How did you find out about this place? And what the hell are you talking about?" "I know everything," I replied, my tone steady, years of pent-up rage and betrayal boiling over. "I've been recording our conversations, Todd. Every demeaning comment, every time you raised your voice. I have it all." For a moment, Todd's confidence wavered, but his arrogance quickly returned. "You think anyone will believe you? You have no proof. You're just a desperate, scorned woman." I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, calmly pressing play on the audio files I had saved. Todd's venomous words filled the space, each one a piece of the puzzle that painted an unmistakable picture of his true nature. "They'll believe me," I said, my voice stronger now. "I've kept everything documented, and it's not just me, Todd. Others know too." His eyes widened, and for the first time I saw genuine fear. "What do you want, Kayla? Money? Apologies? None of this will change anything." "I'm not doing this for money or apologies," I stated. "I want you to face the consequences of your actions. You've hurt me, deceived me, and now it's time for you to pay." Todd clenched his fist, stepping closer. "You think you're tough now, Kayla? You think you can take me down? You're pathetic." Ignoring his attempt to intimidate me, I continued, "You're going to come clean. You're going to face everyone and tell them the truth about who you are." A cruel laugh escaped Todd's lips. "And if I don't, then I'll release these recordings. I've made sure they're in safe hands. You can't stop them from getting out," I replied, holding his gaze with unwavering determination. Todd's confidence shattered. He paced back and forth, running a hand through his hair. "You're bluffing." "Try me," I challenged. "We both know what's at stake." Todd's face contorted with rage, but he knew he was trapped. He couldn't risk losing everything he'd built on lies. "Fine," he spat out. "I'll meet with your people. But this isn't over, Kayla." I stepped closer, forcing him to meet my gaze. "Oh, it's just beginning, and remember, every step you take, I'll be there watching." He stormed out of the house, leaving me standing alone in the echo of his departure. My heart pounded, but I felt an overwhelming sense of justification. I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. As I walked out, the memories of our childhood home seemed to fade, replaced by the strength of my new resolve. Todd would soon learn that karma had a long reach, and his time of reckoning was at hand. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, the odds were in my favor. As I headed back to Jenny's, the words Nana used to say echoed in my mind. "You'll face struggles, but you'll find happiness beyond the darkness." I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing the power of my own resilience. Todd's control over me was at its end, and the real battle was about to begin. "Your lies are finally catching up to you, Todd." "They know everything," I said with cold satisfaction, watching him squirm in the center of his office meeting room. Todd's mask of confidence cracked entirely in that moment. His eyes darted around the room, filled with his colleagues and his boss, Mr. Jenkins. They all wore expressions of shock and disbelief as the recordings of his verbal abuse played from the speakers. "What is this?" Mr. Jenkins demanded, his face turning red with anger. "This is not the man we thought we knew." Todd stumbled over his words, attempting to regain control. "This is private. This doesn't concern my work. Kayla, you have no right." I cut him off sharply. "You acted one way at home, Todd, but you can't hide anymore. Everyone sees the real you now." Sarah, one of Todd's close colleagues, stood up, her voice trembling with anger. "How could you, Todd? We trusted you. We thought you were one of us, but you've been living a lie." Todd's eyes narrowed, his attempts to gather sympathy faltering. "Sarah, you don't understand. This is all her doing. She's trying to ruin me." Mr. Jenkins raised a hand to silence Todd. "I think we've heard enough from you, Todd. Your behavior is absolutely unacceptable." "Kayla, thank you for bringing this to our attention." I nodded, my eyes never leaving Todd. "I'm not doing this out of spite. This is for everyone Todd has hurt, who might hurt in the future. This is about the truth." Todd's bravado faltered entirely. He turned to Mr. Jenkins, desperation creeping into his voice. "Please, I can explain. This isn't what it looks like." Mr. Jenkins shook his head. "It looks exactly like what it is, Todd. You're suspended, effective immediately. We will review this thoroughly, but expect a termination, and legal charges might follow." The colleagues murmured in agreement, their trust in Todd completely shattered. Todd looked around the room, realizing that he had lost his allies, his grip on power slipping entirely. I took a step forward, my voice calm but firm. "It didn't have to come to this, Todd. But you chose to deceive and manipulate. Actions have consequences." His eyes met mine, filled with a mix of anger and desperation. "This isn't over, Kayla." A small, cold smile tugged at my lips. "Oh, it is, and it's only fitting." I walked out of the meeting room, feeling their eyes on me, but more importantly, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Todd's reign of terror was crumbling, and justice was on the horizon. As I exited the building, the fresh air hit my face, and I took a deep, liberating breath. My phone buzzed, a message from Jenny. "How did it go?" I replied simply, "It's done." Nana's words came back to me once again, a comforting reminder of the path I had taken to get here. I knew there were still battles to fight, but the biggest one had just been won. Todd would face the fallout of his actions, and I would no longer be a victim. I walked away from that chapter of my life, feeling stronger and more resolved than ever. As I headed home, my new life, free from Todd's shadow, began to take shape. Better days were indeed coming, and I was ready to embrace every single one of them. I stood by the window, watching the snow gently blanket the streets outside. Christmas lights adorned the houses, casting a soft, inviting glow. The sounds of laughter and festive cheer floated through the air, filling me with warmth. Ethan stepped into the room, holding our daughter Emma in his arms. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she pointed to the lights outside. "Look, Mommy, it's so pretty," I smiled, reaching out to stroke her hair. "Yes, Emma, it really is." Ethan placed Emma down, and she ran off to marvel at the Christmas tree. He came over and slipped an arm around my waist. "You okay?" he asked gently, his voice full of concern and love. "Better than okay," I replied, leaning into him. I never believed Nana when she said happiness would find me after the struggle, but here we are. Ethan kissed my forehead, a reassuring gesture that grounded me. "You've been through a lot, Kayla. I'm proud of you." The past year had been transformative. Todd's reputation had taken a massive hit, and he faced legal consequences for his actions. Meanwhile, I had built a new life with Ethan, whose kindness and love had healed so many of my wounds. Emma's laughter filled the room as she decorated the tree with sparkly ornaments. The sight of her pure joy brought a sense of completeness that I had longed for. I joined her, adding ornaments and tinsel, focusing on the present and the future filled with hope. Ethan picked up a small box from under the tree and handed it to me. "Open it," he urged, his eyes twinkling with anticipation. "Curious?" I unwrapped the box to find a delicate necklace with a locket. Inside was a picture of Emma and a tiny note in Ethan's handwriting, forever and always. Tears welled up in my eyes, but they were tears of happiness. Thank you, Ethan. It's perfect. Emma ran over and gazed at the locket with wide eyes. So pretty, Mommy, I smiled down at her. Just like you, darling. Later that evening, as we sat down for dinner, the joy and love in the room were palpable. It was a striking contrast to the tense, suffocating atmosphere I had once known. Ethan held my hand under the table, a small but meaningful gesture that reminded me of how far I'd come. After dinner, we gathered around the fireplace. Ethan read Emma a Christmas story while I watched, feeling immense gratitude. The flames flickered, casting a warm glow, reminiscent of the light Nana always said would find me. Reflecting on the past, I realized that every struggle, every tear, and every moment of despair had led me to this. Nana's words had come to life in ways I couldn't have imagined back then. Happiness didn't just find me. I built it with the strength and resilience I never knew I had. As Ethan finished the story, Emma snuggled into my lap, her tiny hands gripping mine. I love you, Mommy, she murmured sleepily. I love you too, Emma. So much, I whispered back, my heart full. Ethan's eyes met mine over Emma's head, filled with love and pride. In his gaze, I saw the future, a future built on love, trust, and the promise of better days. Nana's prediction had come true. Beyond the darkness, I had found not just happiness, but a peace I had thought was lost forever. And with Ethan and Emma by my side, I knew we could overcome anything life threw our way. The new dawn was here, bringing with it all the joy, love, and laughter I had once feared impossible. The journey had been long and painful, but in the end, it was completely worth it. With Ethan and Emma, I was ready to embrace every beautiful moment life had to offer.
Hey, it's a doctor from back then. My son pointed to the star of today's wedding. She's both my friend and the bride. I was puzzled by my son's words, as were those around us. I asked him for an explanation. What are you talking about? She's Mom's friend. She's not a doctor. Huh? Really? But the other day... Huh? You saw that lady somewhere? Yeah, I did. You see... With an innocent smile, my son began revealing one unexpected fact after another. After hearing the whole story, I was stunned and made up my mind. I decided to ruin this wedding in a big way. My name is Michaela Harris, and I'm 32 years old. I live with my husband, Nathan, and our son, Shane. Shane is almost 5 years old now. Recently, he has been teaching me a lot of word games and other things he learned at nursery school. Hey, Mom, today I played superhero with my friends. Superhero play? That sounds fun. It was super fun. I played the role of Blue, and there were red and green. That's amazing, Shane. Can you understand Spanish too now? Yeah, red is rojo, and blue is azul. The teacher taught us. Is that so? You're awesome, Shane. My cheeks relaxed as I was drawn in by the innocent smile of my son. My beloved husband and adorable son. Those days spent together as a family of 3 were truly happy. But recently I've been worried about something. It's about my relationship with my husband, Nathan. It's not like we've had any big fights or arguments. I just can't shake this feeling of unease about his words and actions. The catalyst goes back about a year. Until then, my husband always came home on time, but suddenly he started coming home late. When I asked him why, he just said, "Because of overtime." His return gradually got later, from 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., to even 11 p.m. By the time 6 months had passed, he sometimes didn't come home until the early hours of the morning. If these days continue, he will inevitably spend less and less time with his son. I have seen Shane looking lonely on a regular basis, and one night I told my husband about it. Hey, Nathan, don't you think you've been coming home late too often lately? Shane seems really lonely because of it, you know.
What do you expect me to do about it? It's because of overtime.
But do you have to work overtime every single day like this? You used to come home on time every day, though.
Didn't I tell you? I've been assigned to a busy department.
Oh, was that so? Looking back, my husband started working overtime from April. He got transferred to a different department at the start of the fiscal year and got busier. It certainly makes sense, but does he really have to work late every night like this? How is this legal in terms of labor standards? Thinking it was too much, I brought it up to him. Even so, you're working too much. You even go to the office on weekends, saying it's for overtime.
But I have no choice. The new hires are useless, so I have to do their work.
But lately, you haven't been spending time with us at all, right? We haven't gone out as a family or spent time together at home.
That's because I'm busy. Can't help it, can I? You get to go home on time, so spend time with Shane instead.
I understand. Of course I'm doing that, right? But Shane also wants to play with you, Nathan. At that point, my husband let out a weary sigh, seeming bothered. His attitude left me speechless as he glared at me and snapped.
Hey, I like your cushy job. Mine's hectic. You don't get my work, yet you keep saying things.
No, I just want you to spend time with Shane.
Huh? So you're dumping babysitting on me? Ugh, how annoying. You don't want to deal with Shane either, huh?
That's not it at all.
Yeah, got it. If I get a day off, I'll take care of Shane. Happy?
All right. I stopped talking, realizing it wouldn't lead anywhere. As expected, my husband, irritated, muttered complaints while glued to his phone. Unable to bear the tension, I headed to bed without saying goodnight. It's been about 6 months since then. Our relationship hasn't improved much, and our conversations have dwindled lately. What's more, something has been bothering me even more lately. The scent of soap emanating from my husband upon his return home. Perhaps it's been like this before, and I've only noticed it recently. On that day, my husband happened to come home earlier than usual. Hey, Dad, welcome back. With a smile, my husband also warmly smiled at our son as he ran up. While gently stroking his small head, he happily began to speak.
I'm back, Shane. Did you have fun at daycare today?
Yeah, we played tag with everyone today.
I see, Shane. Just like Papa, you're always quick on your feet.
Yeah, I never got caught once.
Wow, that's impressive. How about we compete next time, Shane?
Let's do it. I'll do my best to beat you, Papa.
Peaceful conversation unfolded, making me smile too. It felt like it had been a while since I saw Shane talking with such sparkling eyes. After putting my son to bed, I checked the mailbox I had forgotten about. Inside was a wedding invitation. It was from Avery, a mutual friend of ours. Hey, Nathan, this is from Avery. She's marrying that guy we know.
Seriously? Wow, that's great.
Avery was a classmate from junior high and high school, and we were really close. And surprisingly, she was also a classmate of my husband's in college. It seems they were in the same department too, making her a mutual friend of my husband's. When our son was little, we used to meet up together, but lately I've been leaving Shane with my parents and going out to dinner with Avery and my husband. The last time we met was about 6 months ago, and she seemed really happy when she said this.
Hey, you know what? My boyfriend proposed to me. We're inviting you both to the wedding, so be sure to come.
What? A proposal? Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations, Avery.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure to share the news with you both.
Is he the guy you've been dating since college?
Yes, exactly. He's friends with both of you, so you both have to come to the wedding, okay?
Of course. Avery's fiancé is someone from the same university as her and my husband. They used to hang out together during their college days, and even after getting married, my husband has met with that group several times. I had some reservations about him going out with another woman, but since Avery is also my friend, I felt comfortable. I trusted her in that regard, so I could accept it without any particular anxiety. I received invitations from the bride, Avery, and my husband received them from the groom. We confirmed our attendance on the spot and sent it back the next day. On the day when Avery's wedding was just 2 weeks away, I realized I didn't have any clothes to wear. I prefer to see and buy in stores rather than online, but it's quite challenging to try on clothes with my son in tow. So I checked with my husband anyway, and he promptly agreed without hesitation.
It's no big deal. I can stay home and take care of Shane. How about this Sunday? Is that okay?
Is it okay? Are you working on your day off?
It's fine for just one day. Besides, Shane usually takes a nap in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, he usually sleeps for about 2 hours during the day, but...
Then it's all good. I'll take a break at home during that time too.
Thank you. Sorry for asking suddenly. I felt a strange sense of discomfort from my husband's unusual kindness, but delving deeper would likely lead to another argument, so I couldn't ask further. Over the weekend, I left our son with my husband and went to the department store alone. After trying on a few outfits, I was able to purchase a cocktail dress that I liked. What's more, my husband handed me $100 that day.
You can use this for meals or that salon, whatever you like.
I was surprised when he suddenly said that, but no matter how much I refused, he insisted, forcing the money into my hand. I accepted it gratefully at the time, but still felt hesitant to use it. It probably doesn't hold any deep meaning for my husband. It's likely just his way of saying, take it easy. Taking advantage of his kindness, I enjoyed a leisurely lunch and some window shopping. When I returned home, our son had already finished his bath and was glued to my husband, playing video games together. Unusually, my husband stayed with our son the entire time, even putting him to bed. I thought that peace had finally returned to our household, but I was mistaken about that. Little did I know that such a thing would happen on the day of Avery's wedding. Several weeks later, on the day of the ceremony, I went to the venue with my husband and son. Perhaps because it was his first wedding ceremony, but our son seemed somewhat restless.
Hey, Mom, weddings are amazing, aren't they? So sparkly.
Yes, they are. Mommy and Daddy had a wedding just like this, you know.
Wow, that's awesome. Can I have one someday?
Of course. You'll surely find a wonderful person and be happy.
Yeah.
I wonder who my son will marry in the future. With such thoughts in mind, I went through the reception desk. Once the ceremony concluded smoothly, we moved to the garden adorned with beautiful flowers. Many of my husband's college friends were present, and he was engrossed in lively conversations with them. Meanwhile, I sat on a nearby bench with my son, enjoying the food. Then a radiant figure in a wedding dress approached us.
Michaela, thank you so much for coming today.
Avery, you look absolutely stunning. The wedding dress suits you so well.
Thank you. I really wanted this dress, even though it went over budget, but I insisted on having it.
Your husband is kind, isn't he? Avery, you can be quite demanding, so it must be tough.
Hey now, Michaela.
Sorry, I was just kidding. It was like we were back in our school days, laughing together. And then it happened. My son pointed at Avery and exclaimed in surprise. Shane, what's wrong?
That's the doctor from that time.
The doctor?
Yeah. Hey, Mom, did Dad get better?
With those words, my son pointed to the bride, Avery. As I puzzled over the meaning of my son's words, the people around me also showed a puzzled reaction. I asked my son for an explanation. Shane, what are you talking about? She's Mom's friend. She's not a doctor.
Huh? Really? But the other day...
Huh? Have you seen her somewhere before?
Yeah, I saw her. She was at our house, helping Dad.
At our house? My son wore an innocent smile and nodded vigorously. The surrounding guests were now tilting their heads in confusion. Meanwhile, only Avery had a pale face. Just then, my husband arrived and asked what was going on. As the groom and other classmates gathered around, Avery spoke up.
Shane, did you try the dessert over there? It's delicious. Hey, did the doctor help Dad get better? Huh? What are you talking about? I'm not a doctor.
Huh? But you were at home taking off Dad's clothes and sleeping together.
Well...
My son's words caused a stir among the guests present. I turned to my husband, who quickly averted his gaze from me. In the moment, I understood everything, even as my emotions froze. So that's what it was all about. If something felt wrong, there must have been something behind it after all. I can't believe he was doing something like that to my college friend when I wasn't around. Absolutely unforgivable. I'll definitely ruin this wedding. Avery, what on earth is going on? As I asked quietly, Avery's face turned pale and she grimaced.
What? I don't understand either. What is Shane talking about?
If we believe Shane's story, it means Nathan and you were undressing and sleeping together at our place? Is that true?
No, there's no way that happened. Besides, Shane was asleep. He was asleep.
Asleep? Does that mean Shane was taking a nap? How you know that?
Nothing.
Finally, everything clicked into place. Avery likely came to our house when I was out shopping at the department store. Nathan originally intended to invite Avery over and wanted me to stay out as long as possible. So he generously gave me $100 and likely encouraged me to return home late. As I trembled with anger, the groom, now red-faced, interrogated Nathan.
Hey, what's going on? You and Nathan?
No, it's not true. It's a misunderstanding. This child is lying.
What benefit does a child have in lying? First of all, your agitation says it all.
Don't jump to conclusion. I wasn't cheating.
Enough. The wedding is off. Both you and Nathan will properly explain the truth. Got it?
That's...
As the guests began to stir, I realized my husband was nowhere to be seen. Scanning the surroundings, I spotted him trying to sneak away, so I immediately ran and caught him. Wait a minute. Do you think you can just run away?
Let go. I didn't do anything wrong. Avery was the one who seduced me.
I don't care about that. The fact that you engaged in such behavior is the problem. Now you'll tell us everything, got it?
Please stop. I'm begging you, forgive me.
Grabbing my husband's arm, who was in half-crying state, I dragged him back to where everyone was. Throughout this, my husband kept muttering apologies like, forgive me and I won't do it again. I coldly dismissed him. Enough already? Don't resist anymore and embarrass yourself further. Shane wouldn't lie about this. I know you were cheating. Admit it and apologize.
No, it's not like that. I didn't mean for this to happen.
Save it for later. Your actions already speak volumes. You're done for. Stop making fun of people. I'll never forgive scum like you for the rest of my life. It was the first time I had directed such anger at him. My husband turned pale and slumped in defeat. The wedding was called off and both my husband and Avery were interrogated. Perhaps realizing there was no way to hide it anymore, my husband confessed to the affair on the spot. Avery had tried to deny it until the end, but checking her phone revealed numerous suspicious exchanges between them. It seems their relationship had been ongoing for a long time, but they only started meeting frequently in the past year. Overtime and weekend work were all lies concocted to foster their relationship. My husband and the woman's continued apologies seemed ludicrous. Both I and the groom were furious, turning the scene into a chaotic mess of insults. The sight of my husband and Avery apologizing endlessly was nothing short of ridiculous. Later, I consulted a lawyer and demanded compensation from both Nathan and Avery. Divorce proceedings were simultaneously finalized, and I ensured that the compensation was paid in full and promptly. Nathan was also charged alimony by the groom and eventually had to take on debt. Avery, unable to remarry Nathan due to her parents' furious disapproval, was apparently now confined to her parents' home. This is all just karma. It's a punishment that fits them perfectly. At best, they should reflect and learn about the harshness of society. As for me, I've moved near my workplace and started living with my son. Initially, Shane was bewildered by his father's absence, but lately, he settled down about it too. I'm still evading the truth about the divorce, but someday I'll have to tell him the truth. Until that day comes, I intend to raise my son properly. If my son hadn't pointed out the matter with Avery at the wedding, I would have remained deceived by them for a long time. I want to shower this child with plenty of love so he doesn't have to experience any sadness. I will protect him and have a peaceful life together as I watch over him grow up. Thank you for watching until the end. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.
I noticed a change and held my breath. In front of me was a display that was still turned on. Until just now, I had been video chatting with my mother-in-law, who lives far away, to show my son. "Thank you as always. Please show me my grandchild's face again soon." The call, which was supposed to end with such a pleasant goodbye, did not disconnect, and my mother-in-law's face remained on the screen. She must have made a mistake with the operation. I couldn't help but give in to my mischievous curiosity and wondered what my mother-in-law usually does. Taking advantage of her not noticing, I watched the screen that remained connected for a while. Then suddenly, a figure approached behind my mother-in-law. Huh? She lives alone, doesn't she? As soon as the identity of the figure was clearly shown on the screen, my heart skipped a beat. Wait, is that? Without delay, I screamed. "Behind you!" "What?" My name's Cindy, a 36-year-old mother and a former housewife. The reason former is attached, it's simple. I got divorced from my husband. To put it bluntly, my ex-husband Drew is a complete jerk. Marrying him was nothing but a mistake of youth. Were there any happy times during our few years of marriage? Even if there were, they were not with Drew. I was happy when our son was born. But Drew wasn't even present at the birth. He was out drinking at a bar. The real problem wasn't alcohol, though. He was also addicted to gambling. He had no interest in our child's growth and would find opportunities to gamble. He only paid attention to our son when he won big and felt good about himself. If we had worked, even though he was a guy like that, things might have been somewhat better. But the money Drew used for his drinking and gambling was all earned by me. No matter how angry I got, he would take cash out of my wallet and go out. When he couldn't find any money, he would just drink himself to death at home. Of course, I thought about divorcing him many times. If it were just me, I might have run away and started my life over, but it's difficult with a child. My parents have already passed away, and I don't even have money to hire a lawyer. There is nowhere to return to. So I held back my tears and left my young child at the kindergarten, working as a clerk during the day and doing work-at-home jobs at night, sacrificing my sleep time. I felt like I was reaching my limit every day, living such a shitty life. But there was someone who saved me from that. It was my husband's mother, my mother-in-law. One day, Drew said the worst thing to me. "Hey, where's the money?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" "I said the money. Give it to me. I kinda screwed up, you know. Got a girl pregnant. So I gotta get an abortion. Give me the money." What on earth is he thinking? He has no sincerity towards me, towards women, or towards children. I talked back to my husband. "I don't have any money. Why do I have to clean up after you and your infidelity? An abortion? What do you think you're doing? Do you have no sense of responsibility or guilt?" No matter how eagerly I respond, there's no way that Drew will be affected by it. He starts searching through my bag and drawers without even listening to me. I've made up my mind that I can't stay with him anymore. But who can I turn to? Then, I suddenly remembered someone. His mother. Although our relationship is quite distant, due to Drew's bad behavior, we met once to exchange greetings when we got married. And I sent her a letter when our child was born. She's probably the only person I can turn to, even though there is a possibility that she has a terrible personality like Drew's. but I can't afford to worry about the risk of making my life any more negative. With a faint hope that there might be a chance to turn things around even a little, I called my mother-in-law and told her about Drew. She let out a deep sigh. So he never changed. Then she kept silence for a while. To be honest, she didn't reply to my letter when my son was born. So I kind of knew that my mother-in-law didn't want anything to do with Drew or us. When I almost gave up, she started talking. Well, it's true that I don't want to have anything to do with that stupid son. But I want to do something for my grandson. Without even noticing it, I was crying right at the moment. I couldn't remember actually when was the last time to have someone on my side. Anyway, I'll come over tomorrow, so keep Drew home until I come. Saying that, my mother-in-law hung up the phone. What is her plan exactly? I couldn't deny my anxiety, but I managed to keep Drew home that day. If you stay home today, I will think about the money for the abortion. Of course, I was disgusted to even saying stuff like that, but I had to do something. Then, as she said she would, my mother-in-law came at noon. As soon as Drew saw her mother, he glared at me and said, "Why the heck is this bitch here?" Huh, you know why, don't you? My mother-in-law looked at Drew with the most disdainful eyes. Then she took out her bag, a brown envelope, a divorce decree, and a piece of paper with some kind of text on it. In this envelope, you will find documents, some of which pertain your inheritance. It pains me to my core to give you a piece of my inheritance, since you didn't show up for your father's funeral. But I'm giving you this money. So, divorce her right now and promise me. Never show yourself again. Never involve yourself with your son. Never ask for money. Promise me these 3 things. This is a written pledge that sums it up. After you sign it, you can go anywhere you want. Do whatever you want. I had no idea what my mother-in-law was going to do, but the idea of giving a portion of her husband's inheritance to him, so I tried to stop her. But she looked at me and shook her head. Drew's mood had changed instantly. Dang, really? He filled out the pledge form, including the divorce application, and was happy to do so. And without even reading the pledge, he stood up. All right, Cindy, now you are free from me. I'm also happy to cut ties with a woman like you, who can't even earn money properly. Well, take care of yourself and the kid. Saying so, Drew left the house, looking happy. It hadn't even been 20 minutes since my mother-in-law arrived. I had to thank and apologize to my mother-in-law anyway. Thank you so much. And I am sorry. I never thought you would give him money, let alone father's inheritance. I'll definitely pay you back. Then my mother-in-law turned her palm towards me and shook her head, gesturing me to stop. Didn't I tell you? I just did my part for my grandchild. Honestly, if it were just you, I wouldn't have helped. Besides, you are also at fault for being deceived by scum like Drew. And since he won't listen to words, only money and the law matter for that child. So, don't worry about it. Saying that, my mother-in-law approached my son and spoke. Hello, Elliot. Then my mother-in-law played with her grandson for a while. I asked my mother-in-law about her current situation. Apparently, she had been living alone since her husband died. Since Drew was the only one she had left, she naturally ended up like that. After talking for about an hour, my mother-in-law stood up and began to prepare to leave. Speaking to me, "Well, I'm going to go now. You broke up with Drew, so we won't meet again. From now on, take back the time you lost and be happy." I was surprised by my mother-in-law's hasty departure and stopped her. "Wait! I haven't even thanked you yet. And I don't know what to do from here. And besides, breaking up with Drew doesn't mean I have to break ties with you. If it's okay with you, would you like to live with us?" Looking back, it seems like a pretty brazen proposal, even though I made her pay to break up with Drew. It wouldn't be strange if she thought I was trying to live with her to save on rent. My mother-in-law, however, didn't seem to have such a suspicion. "Thank you." She said so, but she didn't seem very enthusiastic about living together. "The only thanks you can give me is to raise my cute grandchild properly. Money is not the only thing you can pay me back with. I know you are kind enough to offer to live together, but where I live is too rural to consider my grandchild's future. So, it's okay to continue as we are." My mother-in-law left with those words. Since then, I've been living comfortable days that felt like a lie. But I still couldn't stop thinking about my mother-in-law. Certainly, I understand that raising my son well will be a way to repay my mother-in-law's kindness. After all, breaking up with Drew was also for the sake of her son. But at the moment, I was thinking if there was something else I could do. Suddenly, I heard the words video call while watching TV. This is it! My mother-in-law cares deeply about her grandson, and I want to show her his growth from now on. So I decided to buy a computer as a gift to enable video calls with my mother-in-law. I was able to give the gift to my mother-in-law faster than I had expected. Even though my working hours had not changed, with Drew gone, it became much easier to save money. I visited my mother-in-law's house to set up the computer and internet. At first, my mother-in-law tried to decline, saying that she didn't want me to go through the trouble, because raising my son well is my way of repaying you, right? If that's the case, it's strange that you can't see my grandson, isn't it? Even my mother-in-law couldn't resist the desire to see her grandchild. So, I forcefully convinced my mother-in-law. As proof of this, my mother-in-law, who had slightly impaired hearing, was happy to use headphones and adjust the volume during video calls, making it easier to hear her grandson's voice. Since then, I have been video calling my mother-in-law several times a month. I feel like we've grown closer than before. One day, my mother-in-law told me that she had been forgetting things more often lately. Although my mother-in-law was still quite healthy, she was of a certain age, so it wouldn't be strange to have some memory loss. That it's better not to worry too much about it. But the situation seemed to be more serious than I thought. According to my mother-in-law, she often forgets that she spends money on, miscalculates, and frequently loses, and can't remember where she put accessories. Our homes are quite far apart, so it's difficult for me to check with her every time. Still, I thought about how I could be helpful, and suggested that she could send me messages as a memo when she spends money or takes off accessories, so that I could check and remember them during our video calls. My mother-in-law was hesitant at first, thinking it was too much trouble, but over the past few months, I have learned how to persuade her to overcome her reluctance. "You don't have to worry about that," I convinced my mother-in-law, and she eventually accepted my proposal. my mother-in-law herself was so worried that she would forget even more serious things in the future. Perhaps I became a little too anxious, but it's only natural for me to repay her. It may be presumptuous of me, but if I don't do this, my mother-in-law won't rely on me. However, to be honest, this method didn't really solve the problem. Although the frequency of her forgetfulness has decreased, she still has trouble with money and losing accessories. I wonder if I've even forgotten to contact you with the notes. What should I do? If this goes on, I might even lose important things like bank stuff and credit cards. She doesn't have the reliable appearance when she helped me to separate Drew, and she's being overwhelmed with anxiety. Let's go to the hospital together next time. There should be treatment for memory loss now, right? That's about all I can do. If my mother-in-law's starting to suffer from dementia or something, I want to take care of her until the end. I'm prepared for that. My mother-in-law seemed to understand that I am serious and thanked me and asked me to do it. Thank you. Well then, should we wrap up today's video call? Then she made a motion to end the call, taking out her earphones. However, it seems she made a mistake in the operation, and her house continued to be visible on my computer screen. I could have just turned off the call from my end, which would have solved the problem, but to be honest, I was a little curious about what kind of life my mother-in-law was leading at home. Her house is an old mansion located in an isolated place with hardly any other houses around. Since my mother-in-law lives alone and has no need for security, she leaves the gate at the entrance and the doors inside the house wide open. Therefore, even the camera on my computer can show a glimpse of the rooms in the back. As I was thinking about how large the house was out of curiosity, I saw something moving other than my mother-in-law. At first, I thought it might be due to the internet environment causing the screen to be distorted, but it was definitely a human shadow. The shadow was moving from room to room, trying not to be noticed by my mother-in-law. And then I realized who it was. It was my ex-husband, Drew. He was rummaging through the dresser, stuffing my mother-in-law's accessories and money into his pockets. I was shocked, but I knew I couldn't let this go on, so I shouted to my mother-in-law, "Behind you!" "What? What's going on?" But it wasn't just the mother-in-law who heard my voice. Drew also shouted, "Damn it! They found out!" The mother-in-law turned around and shouted at Drew, "Wait! You jerk! Don't you have no sense of decency?" While she shouted, she chased after Drew. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing, so I called 911 and explained the situation. They dispatched police officers to the scene. As a result, Drew was caught by the police officer and taken into custody. During questioning, a part of the mother-in-law's accessory was found. We were able to prove that Drew had taken those items from the mother-in-law's house using the message history between me and the mother-in-law. Drew's confession to the police revealed that he had stolen money and accessories from the mother-in-law's house multiple times. The reason for the crime was that he was constantly nagged for money. It turned out that the boyfriend of the woman who had been impregnated by Drew was a gangster member. When he found about the abortion, Drew suffered a great deal. He was also constantly asked for money, such as for consolation money, and the inheritance he received from his mother disappeared quickly. He hadn't come to my house because of the contract and because he thought I didn't have any money. Also, As a result of Drew's arrest, the gangster member was also arrested. After some time, Drew was sentenced to prison. I visited him with my mother-in-law once.
Hey, Mom, please forgive me. I did it because I was pressured into it. Can we withdraw the criminal complaint even now? Huh? Please, this is dangerous here. It's some kind of mistake. Even the gangsters' henchmen are incarcerated here. I don't know what they will do to me. Please, I'm your son. And you're my mother, right? You can't abandon me like this, can you, Mom?
Upon hearing Drew's insincere words, his mother sighed deeply. You are the result of the pain I suffered giving birth, and you're still causing me all this pain. Everything is all your fault, son. If you understand, then quietly reflect on your actions in prison. After saying this, she asked me to leave the visitation room and went out. As a follow-up, I had my mother-in-law undergo a memory test at the hospital to be safe. The result was a temporarily memory loss caused by stress. Since Drew's arrest, there were no more incidents of stolen memory or lost accessories, and the forgetfulness gradually subsided. I still regularly have video calls with my mother-in-law. If I hadn't broken up with Drew at that time, my son might have become the son of a criminal. I am sincerely grateful to my mother-in-law for preventing that possibility. I will repay her kindness by loving and raising my son well. I made that promise in my heart while looking at my son's sleeping face.
When I returned home from a 2-week business trip abroad, all my things from my apartment were gone.
What is this? When I got home from my work assignment abroad, my room was empty. Oh, the useless wife who went on a trip abroad is finally back. I turned towards the voice coming from behind me. I saw my mother-in-law grinning. What's going on? I cleaned out the trash. I threw out all your things. I was stunned. How could you do that? This is your punishment. You're a housewife, but all you do is play around. This is my apartment now. Do you get it? You've nowhere else to go now. Leave immediately. Ha! You don't seem to realize how serious this is. Disgusted, I ignored my mother-in-law's laughter and began dialing a number on my phone. Hello? Yeah, sorry, actually, my husband's mother. As my mother-in-law listened into my conversation, her face became increasingly blue. She seemed to finally realize how bad what she had done was. No way! That much money? Please forgive me! I smiled and thrusted my phone at my mother-in-law. Here you go. It's time for you to get your punishment. When my husband Joseph and I got married 6 months ago, we moved into our current home. I work from home. I met Joseph in university. We continued dating after graduating, and eventually we decided to get married. Joseph is a calm and kind man. Unfortunately, because of that, he could be indecisive and a bit of a pushover. That didn't bother me before we got married, but after getting married, I began to wish he'd be a bit more serious. Joseph's mother is a very loud and pushy person. She's someone who likes flashy things and has a particular fashion sense. If I was to ever hear her calling my name in the streets, I'd definitely pretend I don't hear her. After we moved, my very particular mother-in-law began visiting our home every day. She came up with all sorts of reasons to come over and stay until it became dark out. At the beginning, I tried convincing her to leave by saying things like, "I'm worried about Joseph's father," or, "If it gets late, it could be dangerous outside." But it never worked. I tried explaining to her that I work from home, but 1 month passed and she didn't get it. I work from home on my laptop. I have a lot of work to do, so I'd like to focus on it. Huh? You're just lying. All you do is play around on your computer. My mother-in-law would laugh and not listen to anything I said. To top it all off, she would invite her friends to come over with her to our apartment without permission. She once brought over 5 friends, which put her in a great mood. Look! This apartment is worth $750,000. It has an amazing view, doesn't it? She showed off our apartment to all of her friends, and she forced to prepare them all snacks and tea. A few hours later, they finally finished. My mother-in-law left me to clean, and it was only natural for me to do so. We went to send her friends off. After her friends left, she came back up to our apartment. Ah, that was so much fun! It's wonderful having a son. I'm so proud of him. She jumped on the couch. Because my mother-in-law was always coming over, I could never finish my work during the day. I had to work late into the night to catch up on it. I was super sleep deprived. That day, some especially important deadlines were approaching, so I had been worrying about them since this morning. The fact that my mother-in-law forced me to host her friends on that day made me sort of boil over with anger. As I cleaned the house, I cursed my mother-in-law internally. Doing this every day? Give me a break. What's so fun? This isn't even your house. You didn't even offer to pay for everything you and your friends just ate now. You leech. Let me do my work. My mother-in-law came into the kitchen to make sure I was cleaning. Okay, I'm leaving. I plan on inviting another group of friends over next week, so see you then, she said. At that moment, I heard something pop, and I began to let everything I had been holding inside my heart out. Hey, do you realize how rude you are? This isn't your home, yet you come here every day. You brought your friends over to show off. Don't you think that's too much? I'm not your maid. How many times do I have to tell you I'm working? Let me use this opportunity to make it clear. You're bothering me. I couldn't stop it. The color of my mother-in-law's face began to change. When I finished, she began to scream back at me. Bothering you? You're my son's wife! What's wrong with me coming over to my son's house? You're just a housewife who spends all day messing around. You don't even do any housework. You can't just talk back to your husband's parents. You're the one who's gone too far. You're a freeloader. I'll remember this. She left her apartment red-faced and in a huff. That night, I told Joseph about what had happened. I desperately asked him for help. I wonder what will happen. She's old and super stubborn, right? I don't want to be a bad son, so I think we should just listen to her. He was totally on his mother's side. This was the first time Joseph spoke so firmly about something, which surprised me. Usually, he was the type of person to vaguely answer or run away if I tried to ask him for advice. This was the first time a conversation of ours has ended like this. I thought he would understand me at least a little bit, so I was very disappointed. From that day, I stopped trusting in Joseph. In the middle of that weird atmosphere, I suddenly got called on for a 2-week-long business trip abroad. When I told Joseph, saying it's just work is an excuse, right? You're actually just going for fun, aren't you? He was suspicious of me. Joseph had never gone on a business trip before, so I assumed that's why he didn't understand. Honestly, I was pretty excited for this opportunity to work abroad, but I couldn't help but think about my mother-in-law. I felt uneasy about what she would do during the 2 weeks I was going to be away. My business trip finished without any problems, and I returned home to the States. I was still feeling uneasy, but I felt happy to be home and thought about how Joseph must have been lonely while I was away. I told Joseph I'd be coming back today, so he should be home. I rang from the first floor of the apartment building. There was no reply. I rang again, but the apartment entrance still didn't open. That's weird. With no other choice, I dragged my heavy luggage up to our apartment building by myself. When I got to our apartment, I tried unlocking the door, but there was a chain in place. He's here. Is he asleep? Through the crack of the door, I called for Joseph to wake him up. I rang the doorbell again. Finally, I heard the footstep sounds, but it wasn't Joseph. It was my mother-in-law, appeared with an annoyed look on her face. She stood at the doorway and began to speak. What are you doing in my apartment? I hadn't entered my home yet, and I already had to deal with this. What kind of joke is that? Please open the door. You're the one who seems to be joking. You're not the owner of this apartment. Please give me a break. I was drowsy from jet lag and I wanted to rest as soon as possible. Don't you know? The apartment is under my name now, so I won't let you in. My mother-in-law spoke with a triumphant look on her face. I had no idea what she was saying. Excuse me? What do you mean? Do you really think you can do this? She wouldn't listen to me at all. Do you really think you can do this? You're just a housewife, but you left behind my son on a 2-week-long vacation. We're kicking you out. Haven't I told you both before that I went for work? She still wouldn't let me in the house. Give up. None of your things are here anymore. She threw me a key to a storage facility and shut the door. I was stunned. I tried to call Joseph, but he wouldn't pick up. I needed to rest, so I dragged my suitcase with me and went to the closest hotel nearby. I laid on my hotel bed. I could feel myself fill with anger. I made a phone call. That morning, I headed back to my apartment building and rang from the entrance. Yes? I heard my mother-in-law call from the apartment building. Without a word, I entered the apartment building. Climbing at my apartment, I unlocked the door and spoke into the apartment. Please unlock the chain. When my mother-in-law realized it was me, she yelled at me to go away. Please let me in. If you don't undo the chain, I will report you to the police and make a huge scene. Is that okay with you? Imagine how embarrassing it'll be with all the neighbors see that. My mother-in-law responded to my threats and undid the chain lock. The inside of our apartment had completely changed in the last 2 weeks. Where did she even find those tasteless cushions and gaudy curtains? In the middle of the living room, there was a red carpet, bright enough to make your eyes hurt. I felt my head ache from the decor in the apartment. My mother-in-law was sulking on the couch. I asked her about the rights to the apartment. Did you really change the apartment into your name? I did. I'm sure someone like you would consider it a ridiculously long and difficult process, but I'm different than you. She had a proud look on her face. Really? It's not easy to do, is it? Where did you do it? Can you show me the documents? You should have a copy, right? I asked her because I knew there was no way she had anything. Ha! I didn't do it! My clever son did it for me. So this time she planned on bringing in Joseph. Really? Then let me ask Joseph about it. I walked towards the bedroom. Don't go around my house without permission. My mother-in-law screamed, but I didn't care. Joseph slept all day during the weekends, so I knew he'd be in the bedroom. I opened the bedroom door without knocking and slapped him across the face. I pulled Joseph and his mother to sit at the table. Joseph looked down guilty, while his mother was boiling with anger. I asked them about the rights to the apartment building again. I heard you gave the rights to your mother. How did you do that? Joseph's eyes filled with tears. My mom kept saying she wanted that apartment, he replied in a muffled voice. She wanted it, so you gave it. Isn't that a little strange? How did you do that? My mother-in-law chimed in. What's wrong with my son giving me an apartment as a present? All that matters is that he did the paperwork. She laughed, satisfied with herself. Joseph gave a cold glare and began calling someone on the speakerphone. What are you doing? My mother-in-law said in an annoyed voice. The call connected. I'm sitting with the two of them. I'll leave it to you. Joseph slumped his shoulders even more. Got it. Let me explain. I understand you're occupying my property. If you intend to stay in the house, you'll have to pay $8,000 monthly in rent. You have 3 choices. You can pay the $8,000 in rent, leave the apartment, or if you stay in the apartment without paying the rent, I will report you for forgery and breaking and entering. My mother-in-law's face went pale. The real owner of this apartment was actually my sister. Right as Joseph and I got married, my sister sent to work abroad. So she left us to live in her apartment. Since we've been taking care of her apartment while she was away, she left us the apartment for free. Thanks, sis. I'll take it from here. Get it together. If anything comes up, call me. I laughed and hung up the phone. I turned to Joseph. What you did was illegal. Why don't you explain everything to us? At last, Joseph began to speak. My mother kept pushing me and telling me to give her the apartment. Annoyed, I just answered, yeah, but she misunderstood. She went far, so I couldn't go back. My mother-in-law was in a state of shock, and her whole body shook. Joseph continued to make up excuses. I feel bad, but I thought you'd forgive me if I apologized. I asked your sister if my mom could take care of the apartment. That would sort of everything out. My mother-in-law finally understood what was going on. No, I won't leave. No way, I refuse. She began to throw a temper tantrum as if she was a small child. I pulled out the final card up my sleeve. Does Joseph's father know about this? My mother-in-law froze. Her tears and temper were obviously just all an act. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Nice timing. It was my father-in-law. Last night, after calling my sister, I had actually also called my father-in-law. Turns out that my mother-in-law ran away from their home because her husband had said he wanted to divorce her. The reason she had huddled herself up in our apartment is because she wanted to escape his demands for a divorce. Being in their home was tough on her, so she spent as much time as possible in our apartment. 4 of us sat down together and began to talk. I'm sick and tired of you. It's divorce. Didn't I tell you I didn't want to? This wasn't going anywhere. I decided to encourage my father-in-law. I pulled out my phone and showed my mother-in-law a photo. It was a photo I took around a month ago when I happened to go to the spa and see my mother-in-law with another man. She was far away from me, but I immediately recognized her from her horrible fashion sense. With this piece of evidence against her, she couldn't run away anymore. After accepting the divorce, she turned to Joseph. Joseph, I will take care of you, so I can stay with you, right? She tried to convince him. Joseph was so shocked to see the photo of his mother with another man that he didn't even notice she was talking to him. I was overwhelmed by how selfish she was. Joseph doesn't have a job or a house. The reason he goes out every day is because he's job hunting. You really know nothing about your son, even though you're here all day. My mother-in-law trembled out of frustration and shock. Also, you're jobless? Don't make fun of my son. Then let me surprise you with something else. I can't tell you the full details about my job, but I'm a shadow writer. I make over $75,000 a year. You're assumed I'm spending all day and playing around, but I make a lot of money. Since I worked at a ghostwriter, my work was pretty confidential. You hid this from me! No way, you must be lying! My mother-in-law finally accepted the truth and realized she couldn't fight back anymore. After all of this, I had lost my trust in Joseph, so I told him I wanted a divorce. He and my mother-in-law moved out of the apartment, and they left Joseph begging to give him another chance, but I refused. Joseph had no choice but to agree to the divorce, so our marriage came to an end after only 6 months. We had no property to divide or anything. Joseph just had to leave. Around the same time, Joseph's parents also officialized their divorce. Getting divorced really invigorated my ex-father-in-law, and now every day is like a celebration for him. Joseph and his mother were both unemployed, so they couldn't rent a new apartment. They had to rely on some relatives that let them use a really run-down apartment they owned. I made sure to claim rent and utilities for my mother-in-law for the 2 weeks that she lived here in the apartment that I was away. Joseph's father also claimed monetary damages from her. In order to pay off everything, Joseph and his mother began desperately working part-time. My ex-mother-in-law, so I'm sure I'll no longer be able to recognize her from afar. Though I had caused my sister trouble, she laughed and joked and said that I better take care of myself in her apartment from now on. From this experience, I relearned that it only becomes meaningful to get what I want after I put in my own effort to obtain it.
While I was forced out to buy groceries for Mill, she cut up and threw my bag, which contained $10 million.
Oh my! Was it your bag? I thought it was garbage. I'm so sorry about that. My mother-in-law threw away my bag. I was stand at the side of it in the trash can, mixed in with piece of vegetables and meat. It was badly cut up and disfigured. I could see the utter malice in it. Well, all your belongings are like trash anyway. What's the big deal? I couldn't bear to see you leave your garbage at my front door. As a mother-in-law, I couldn't overlook it. You should be thankful to me. What have you done? It was a bag that I had been treasuring. My husband bought it for me for my birthday. That wasn't it. There were $10 million in it. My name is Chelsea. I'm a housewife. When I got pregnant with my husband Philip, we got married. It was a shotgun wedding. Our daughter Lisa will be 5 years old this year. We have very loving and caring family dynamics. Basically, I'm living a happy life. Except for one thing. That is my mother-in-law's bullying. When my father-in-law passed away a few years ago, my mother-in-law Kate decided to sell the house and moved in with us. In the beginning, she was humble and appreciated everything I did for her. Within a year, her true nature began to emerge. She lectured me about the importance of being frugal and complained that I spent too much at every opportunity. My family depended solely on Philip's income. He earned more than most people his age. We had enough money to live a comfortable life as long as we didn't splurge. We were even able to save money every month. We thought there was no need for us to be frugal. Kate didn't like our way of thinking and interfered in many things. Whenever I bought groceries, she spread them out on the counter before I could even put them in the refrigerator. She compared each item with several advertisements to see if I bought it at the cheapest price. Then, of course, I had to put them away myself afterward. And if something wasn't cheap enough, she even asked me to return it. Since she had been researching the prices so thoroughly, she was able to calculate the total cost of the dishes I cooked. She complained about the high cost per dish, the waste of electricity with the way I cooked, and other tedious details. I once rebelled against her, but she threw all the food in the pot into the trash. It's your fault for not obeying me, that all the food went to waste. I was illogically blamed, but she was so fierce that I gave up. It was not only about the family budget that she complained about, but also about my personal expenses. If I bought new clothes, "You don't need these beautiful clothes. Wear what you already have until they become tattered." If I went out to lunch with a friend, she snatched the receipt. "Next time, go to a cheaper place. Better if you stop eating out and wasting money." That money was the allowance Philip had given me, and I always managed within the budget. I never touched the family expenses for my personal use. If Philip were to complain, that would be one thing, but to have her complain? I had no reason to be scolded by her. The worst was, when I was taking a nap alone on a very hot day, she turned off the air conditioner and opened all the windows. I woke up from the heat and was upset, thinking that it would have been ridiculous to get heat stroke from it. I asked her why she did what she did. "It's obvious, isn't it? Using electricity for you is a waste. When I was your age, we only had a fan." Who cared about the old days? I complained to Philip, but she always put on a good face in front of him and Lisa. He had the impression that she was worse at spending money than saving it. He warned her softly, but he didn't believe me much. She did have a habit of spending money. Contrary to what she always lectured me, She did not practice the same at all. Philip bought her a smartphone when she moved in with us. Until then, she only had a landline. She was excited to have the new phone and quickly mastered its use. She not only shopped her own stuff online, but also bought toys and clothes for her beloved granddaughter. I felt that giving Lisa everything was not good for her. But the problem was that Kate spent more than she could afford. She had a pension, and on top of that, she received an allowance from Philip just like me. She spent them without thinking twice and asked him to cover the excess. He wasn't able to dispute the charges when they were used for his daughter and reluctantly paid. Well, I've told you all the negative things, but life itself wasn't all that bad. Kate was head over heels for my daughter and took good care of her. I was able to leave her at home and went out without worries. Philip seems to be somewhat aware of Kate's bullying and gave me a nice brand name bag as an apology on my birthday. The bag not only had a large capacity, but also had no metal parts. He must have chosen it because I had a slight metal allergy. Such subtle kindness was a source of emotional support for me. I told myself that a lot of people experienced similar bullying. I was willing to put up with it a little, but there was a limit to my patience. One day, when I came home from grocery shopping, Kate was waiting for me at the door. I wondered what was going on. She told me that we had just run out of milk and that I needed to go buy it right away. I had just come home and was tired. I thought that not having milk wasn't a big deal anyway. Can I do it tomorrow? Her face turned red at my question. What are you talking about? I'm telling you to buy it now because it's on sale only today. Don't you even get that? Stop complaining and go run. She wouldn't have backed down even if I tried to reason with her. So I had no choice but to go back out. Everything I bought earlier was okay to leave there. I didn't buy anything that needed to be refrigerated right away. She was going to check them one by one anyway, so there was no need to put them away. I grabbed my bag and opened the front door. Wait a minute! I was about to leave when she stopped me. I thought she would tell me to tidy up first, but it was something else. You don't need to carry such a heavy bag just to go buy some milk, do you? You'll just get tired. Leave it behind. The bag that Philip gave me was so convenient that I used it regularly. Because of that, I left all kinds of things in it, and it was indeed getting heavy. I wondered if she was showing a little care for me. I was a little skeptical, but I did as I was told and left my bag behind. The milk on special sale was not yet sold out, and I bought some. On the way back, I thought that buying things we didn't need was a waste of money. When I returned, all the groceries that had been scattered earlier had been cleaned away. The only people in the house were Kate and Lisa. Since a 5-year-old couldn't clean up everything, it was inevitable that Kate had done it. I thought it was unusual. I needed to check my phone, which I had left in my bag. My bag was missing. Kate must have taken it inside. I looked around and found the contents of my bag scattered all over the dining table. I guessed that Kate might have overturned the bag because it was too heavy for her. It was still missing though. As I was looking around to see if she had put it on the floor, Kate appeared from her room. I put away the groceries you left at the entrance. I'm in a good mood today. You should thank me. Thank you. I was about to ask her where my bag was, but she mentioned something strange. I also got rid of the kitchen garbage that was left with the groceries. I'm really ashamed that I have a daughter-in-law who can't even clean up after herself. I didn't want a mother-in-law like you. I muttered in my mind while I focused on the word garbage. There was no way I would have left such a thing at the entrance. We did have a trash can for food scraps just outside of the kitchen door. No matter what, I couldn't have left it at the front door. I opened the lid of the can to see what she was talking about. Even luxury brand goods are no better than food scraps if a woman like you has them in her possession. As a mother-in-law, I can't leave food scraps at the entrance. That's why I made sure to put it in the trash can. I found my cut-up bag mixed with scraps of vegetables, meat, and last night's leftovers. What a mess she had made. I knocked over the can and scattered the contents out. Then I tried my best to remove the pieces of my bag that had been chopped up. She grinned and looked down at me. Oh, that's just pathetic. Going through the garbage. I told you to save money, but I didn't tell you to go that far. I'm sure Philip would be disgusted to see his wife like this. I glared at her. There were 10 million in that bag. She flinched a little, but she shook her head and denied my statement. Liar! There is no way that bag contains that much money. Besides, even if it did, your wallet is on the table. I ignored her fussing and kept going through the garbage to find the pieces of the bag and the scattered pieces of paper. The 10 million was a homemade check given to me by Lisa. She had seen Kate scolding me to save money and thought that if I became rich, I wasn't going to be bullied. She gave it to me on my birthday. I kept it in my bag along with a birthday card as lucky charms. I was able to retrieve a few pieces of the card, but it was cut into tiny pieces with great care. I was hoping to somehow put them back together, but they were soaked in water from the garbage. There was nothing I could do. I was so desperate that I didn't notice Lisa standing behind me. I turned around and kept apologizing to her. I'm so sorry. The birthday card and the check you gave me are gone. I was so happy when you gave them to me. You worked hard to make them. Hearing me, Kate finally understood the situation. She regained her composure, feeling relief that she had not thrown away the actual money. Poor Lisa, your mommy is the worst. She easily disregards gifts from her daughter. Leave the bad mommy alone and let's play with Nana. She took the opportunity to make me look like the bad guy. The true culprit was right in front of our eyes. I could have just said so, but the guilt and the fact that I didn't take good care of them made my mouth clamp shut. Then Lisa, who was standing in front of me, spoke up. I saw you, Nana. I know Nana cut Mommy's back with the scissors. While I was out to buy milk, she witnessed everything. Not realizing, Kate must have been joyfully cutting up the bag. Kate was visibly unsettled and was about to excuse herself, but Lisa shouted first. I hate you, Nana! She cried out loud, throwing the toys Kate had bought. The word hate must have stabbed Kate so deeply that she collapsed to her knees. I too exposed with emotions that had been holding back and wailed like a child. Philip returned to such a scene. He freaked out and ran up to us. Then I explained what had happened. He saw the pieces of the bag and Lisa's present all messed up and finally understood the extent of Kate's bullying. I didn't realize that you have been through more than I could ever imagine. I'm sorry. After he apologized to me, he condemned Kate and demanded to tell him everything she had done. According to her, she thought I was having it too easy as a stay-at-home mom at Philip's expense. She wanted to give me a taste of how she used to feel when she was younger. She was familiar with brand name products, and the high price of the bag I had received infuriated her. She had taken out my wallet and other stuff that couldn't be cut by scissors, but overlooks a present from Lisa hidden in an inside pocket. She ended up chopping them along with receipts.
You knew you were doing something terrible.
When the time came, I was going to say that Lisa had played a prank on you. Later, I found out that her comment made him instantly decide the future.
Are you kidding me? Forcing your own misdeeds on your grandchild? It's not good for Lisa's education, and we can't have such a person in our house. This is a good opportunity. I'm going to ask you to leave. I hope you will realize the importance of having money and family.
Then he turned to Lisa and me.
From now on, the three of us will live happily as a family. We don't have to force ourselves to save any money. We'll have one less person. We can live more luxurious and comfortable lives than ever before.
Kate cried aloud behind him, but the decision was never overturned. A week later, Kate moved into a studio apartment that Philip had provided. It was equipped with a bare minimum of appliances, but the room looked old and haunted. We didn't want her to be kicked out and come back to us, so Philip agreed to pay only the rent and nothing more. If she wanted something, she needed to work and enjoy saving money as much as she would like. She now lives a frugal life, working at a job for seniors, and is not able to spend as much money as she used to. She's also on the cheapest phone plan and is using a simple cell phone. When she's at home, she apparently has a lot of free time on her hands. It would be bad if she were to fall ill or something, so Philip goes to check on her once a month. She keeps asking him to bring Lisa with him, so she could spend some time with her. Lisa refuses to see her, and there's nothing we can do about it. The black sheep is gone, and the three of us are living a slightly richer and much happier life together.
My husband lets his mother stay in a luxurious condo, but forbids me to bring over my parents.
I won't forgive you if you invite your parents over. They are dirty as stray cats. If you don't like that, get out of this house.
Does this man not realize who it is that allows him to live here? Fine then. I will leave the house. And it's been a few months since then. When I arrived at that apartment with my parents, he opened the front door and begged me,
Please help me. I can't pay the rent.
Then I told him coldly, You don't deserve to live in this apartment. Get the hell out of here. My name is Lara. I'm a 32 years old office worker. After I graduated from college, I got a job at a big company, and I'm still working there. I have been working my ass off for so long now. Since I have been with the company for 10 years now, I'm in a reasonably good position. I've always been dedicated to my work. But my private life is also very fulfilling these days. I'm currently in a relationship with a man named Nick, who I met on a blind date. He is a businessman and is the same age as me. We had a lot in common, and we soon became close. He was sincere and gentlemanly, and took the lead on our dates. I became more and more attracted to him, and now we have been dating for 2 years. I was thinking that I was getting old and wanted to get married soon. He proposed to me one day.
Lara, I want to marry you. Let's build a warm family together.
Yes, I'm sure we can make it together. And that's how I ended up marrying him. We greeted each other's parents and had a wedding. Everyone at work and my friends congratulated me, and I was at the height of my happiness. And then, our life as husband and wife began. Our newlywed life was very happy and joyful. My husband couldn't cook, so I was in charge, but he took the initiative in cleaning and so on. We were able to live together in a well-balanced and cooperative manner. After about 6 months of living together as a couple, my husband made me a proposal.
Hey, why don't we live in a bigger room?
What? A bigger room?
No, it's like you moved into my room. We just got married and become a couple. I think we should move out, considering we are going to have children and stuff.
The word children made me smile. My husband is taking our life together seriously, isn't he? This place might be indeed a little cramped if we have a child.
Isn't it? So let's move into a bigger and more comfortable home.
Yes, let's do that. When I said yes, he seemed to be very happy.
Yay! Let's find a room right away.
After work, he went to the real estate agency by himself and got a lot of information. I was too busy to go with him, but I was surprised when I saw the information he got. What? All of the information you got was about condos?
Yes, with our income, we should be able to afford this much.
I swallowed down the words that were about to come out. He said our, but my salary is far more than his. But it would hurt my husband's pride to say that. I have a feeling we could live comfortably in a cheaper room. Besides, when we think about having kids, it would be better to have savings. I tried as much as I could to get my husband to choose a cheaper room, but he wouldn't listen to me at all.
Well, we could save a little money. Besides, I've always wanted to live in a townhouse. It's good to experience everything in life.
My husband looked at various materials happily. Well, indeed, living in a condo is not an easy thing to do. I was raised to live modestly. I am hesitant about this kind of thing, but maybe it would be nice to experience it at least once. So I agreed to live in a condo. And later that day, we went to a real estate agency together to look around. We found a room which both of us liked much. It was a luxury apartment with a rent of $1,500. The room is on the 17th floor, so it has a great view of the outside. It's spacious and has many rooms, so it's comfortable. We immediately signed the lease, and we moved in with our stuff. My husband is very happy with it, and I'm very happy that we moved here. It's closer to work and easier to get there than before. The supermarket, post office, and bank are all close by, so it's convenient.
We are happy to live here after all, aren't we?
Yes, it's very comfortable.
We have an extra room, so it's not a problem if we want to invite someone over.
I think we can make a guest room or something. At this point, I thought my husband was thinking of having friends over, but he wasn't. One day on a day off, my husband and I were relaxing at home when the intercom rang. When I went to answer it, he got up and said, "I will go." Thank you. It's nice of him to move quickly at a time like this. Is it a delivery service or something? Why, I was thinking like that. I heard my husband talking to someone in a friendly manner at the door. And then he came into the living room, and I was surprised to see who was behind him. What? Grace? Hi, Lara. Long time no see. What's going on? What's going on? I came to visit you. I looked at my husband in surprise. Nick, you should have told me Grace was coming.
Huh? I didn't tell you. I'm sorry.
I will get you some tea right away. Oh, thank you. So, where should I put my luggage?
Oh, you can put them in a guest room for now.
I didn't know you had a guest room. It's an amazing home. My mother-in-law was happily chatting with Nick. She seemed to be enjoying the room tour that he was leading. Afterward, we had tea and sweets and talk about all sorts of things. I'm so proud of Nick for living in such a beautiful apartment.
It's been 2 years since my dad passed away.
Yeah, since he passed away. The yard is so low maintenance. My mother-in-law looked a little sad when she said that.
Mom.
Seeing my mother-in-law like that, my husband also had a sad expression on his face.
Well, anyway, Mom came to visit us today. Let's get some pizza to go and have a party.
My husband said so, and I agreed. And we spent a pleasant mealtime over beer and delicious pizza. It was getting late at night, and my mother-in-law stayed over at our house. I thought at the time that it was fine since tomorrow was my day off too. But to my surprise, my mother-in-law stayed over that day too. I tried not to interfere too much. My husband said, as if it was a matter of course, that she should stay over again today. My mother-in-law stayed over without hesitation. I have to work tomorrow, so I'm going to be busy in the morning. I was a little annoyed and anxious, and the next morning came. But when it was already time for me to go to work, my mother-in-law did not wake up. I asked my husband, who was getting ready in the morning, "When is Grace going home? You and I both have to work during the day." When I asked him that, he replied that it should be no problem if she stays at home until we get home today in the evening. What? You let her stay at home without us?
Yeah, what's the problem?
That's a big problem. How can my mother-in-law be alone in our home without us? This is our home.
Yes, it is. So my mother, who is a relative of ours, can spend her time here as she pleases.
My husband says it that way, as if it's a matter of course. I want to argue a lot, but it was already time to go to work. I had no choice but to give up and leave the house. And when I came home from work, my mother-in-law was having dinner with my husband happily. "Oh, Lara, welcome home. Dinner is ready. You should eat too." "Oh, thank you very much." My mother-in-law was still at home as a matter of course, and she was standing in the kitchen cooking. Not that there is anything wrong with that, but I felt a little uncomfortable that she was using my well-maintenance kitchen without my permission. And my mother-in-law was staying over that day too. I couldn't stand any longer, so I asked my husband about it. "Isn't your mother staying over a bit too much? Why don't you let her go home once?" When I said this, my husband was vexed.
What? You're treating my mother like she's a nuisance.
"No, it's not like that. But I won't feel at home if she stays here all the time."
Huh? You are a terrible person. My mom would be hurt if she knew you were talking like that.
"No, why are you acting like I'm the bad one? This home is ours. We leased this home to live together."
Didn't you listen to her the other day? Mom is lonely living alone in that old house. So at least for a little while, it should be fine when she lives together with us at this house. But you're complaining after just a few days.
You don't have to say it like that.
I'm her only son, so I have to take care of my mom. That's why I'm going to ask Mom to stay here a little longer.
No way. I didn't agree. But still, when my mother-in-law said she was feeling lonely, I couldn't object strongly enough. After that, my mother-in-law slept over at our house as a matter of course. She was sleeping over for about 2 weeks at a time. And recently, she has been going back to her own house during the day to pick up clothes and stuff. I thought it was strange, so I talked to my husband again. This is totally like she lives together with us. I don't remember having approved of the 3 of us living together. When I said this, my husband sighed.
You really are a thin-skinned person, aren't you? How many times do I have to tell you that my mom is lonely?
I fully understand that, but I just don't think it's right for her to stay here all the time like this.
So I guess she needs to move in here.
What?
I will tell Mom about that.
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm going to sell her house and let her move in with us.
No, I won't approve of that.
I don't care if you approve or not. Anyway, I spent the last 2 weeks with Mom, and I think we should move in together. I'm going to have to talk to her about it right away.
My husband didn't change his opinion, no matter how much I objected. And eventually, my mother-in-law moved her stuff completely out of her house, sold her house, and moved in. I was disappointed with my husband's decision to force me to live with her. I wonder if he will continue to decide everything without considering my opinion. Then, my mother-in-law's attitude became more and more brazen as we started to live together. Lara, make me some tea. Oh yes, we are out of sweets. Go and get some. My mother-in-law would lie on the sofa and tell me what to do. She also began to abuse me. Lara, you have Nick, who financially supports your life. You're neglecting the house chores, aren't you? Why don't you quit your job and be a housewife? You have nothing to offer except to do your best at house chores. It's a miracle that you're still living in this condo. Be grateful to Nick. Why do I have to be treated like this? My frustration was mounting. Then, I received a call from my parents, who live in the countryside for the first time in a long time.
Lara, how are you?
Hi, Dad. It's been a while, but I'm fine.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I've got to go to New York next week. I'd like to come to visit you in your new apartment if that's okay.
Sure. I'm so excited to have Mom and Dad here.
Okay, fine. We are looking forward to it.
I hung up the phone and immediately told my husband about this. And my husband reacted in a way I didn't expect.
Huh? You're going to invite your parents? You've got to be kidding me. That's an absolute no.
What? Why not?
Your parents live in a countryside as farmers, right? If they come here, they will make a mess of our beautiful condo. Don't ever bring your poor dirt-covered parents here. They don't even deserve to enter this apartment.
Why do you say that? I just wanted them to come over. They wanted to visit us. Why don't you just let them see our home for a minute?
Shut up. I won't forgive you if you invite your parents, who are dirty as stray cats. If you don't like it, get out of my house.
When I heard my husband's words, something snapped. My love for him has gone down the drain. Does this man not understand who it is that allows us to live here? All right, I will leave the house.
You should. I will have more space now that you will be gone. I guess that means you didn't deserve this condo after all.
My husband looked down at me by saying that, and my mother-in-law, who is standing next to him, is looking down at me. They are the worst. I have no choice but to get rid of them. I immediately went to a real estate agent and rented a reasonable apartment. Then I packed my stuff and showed my husband the divorce papers. There's no point in being married anymore, so sign this.
Fine. Now I'm finally free of you, annoying bitch. From now on, I will go out with younger women and live happily here.
Saying this, my husband signed the divorce papers. I took it and left the house with the rest of my belongings. My husband and mother-in-law looked at me with triumphant faces, but they didn't seem to understand what was about to happen. When my parents came to New York, they listened to my story in detail and were stunned.
I had no idea he was such a hopeless man. But well, he's going to destroy himself.
I nodded in agreement with my parents. A few months has passed since then. My parents came to New York again on business. They said,
"Let's go to that condo. You will see many interesting things."
When I arrived at the apartment with my parents, my husband opened the front door and came to beg me.
"Lara, you came?"
"Oh, you're disgusting." I shook off his hand. He got down on his knees and asked me for a favor.
We can't afford to pay the rent.
Behind him, I could see Grace, who had a pale face. "You saw this coming, didn't you? Your salary is not enough to pay for this condo." My ex-husband burst into tears and said,
I was wrong. I'm sorry. And I want to get back together with me.
He is a fool that he thinks he can get back together with me. I told him coldly, "You don't deserve to live in this apartment. Get the hell out of here."
Please don't say that.
He was in despair, and now my father was talking to him.
Nick, I heard you say we were poor and dirty as stray cats. Well, You're the kind of guy who judges people by their looks and their titles, and you continue to live in a condo to look good. And now you are 3 months behind on your rent. You are irredeemable. Now get out of this apartment that my company manages. Huh?
My ex-husband looked like he had no idea. My dad is the president of a management company that manages many properties, including this condo. Now he left most of the management to the vice president. Nowadays, he's enjoying his hobby as a farmer and lives in the countryside. I thought I explained it to you, but I guess you misunderstood me.
Oh no.
My ex-husband was frozen with a pale face. My mother-in-law couldn't hold it any longer and sat down on the floor. "I want you to get out of here and move into a place that is more appropriate to your status. Of course, you must pay the overdue rent." Thus, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were evicted from the apartment. And they are now living together in a shabby apartment while paying 3-month rent in installments. I thought, why don't they just use the money they got when they sold off the old house of Grace? My parents-in-law's house was old and worth very little, so my ex-mother-in-law had almost no property. Moreover, she thought that her son, my ex-husband, was making a lot of money. She was living a life of unlimited extravagance. So my ex-husband, in addition to the overdue rent, also needs to pay a lot of credit card bills. It feels good. I, on the other hand, live comfortably on my own in a reasonably sized and reasonably priced room. This sense of modest living was instilled in me by my parents, and I'm still grateful for that. I will continue to work hard and live a peaceful and happy life by maintaining a minimal lifestyle. I wonder what it is about people like her husband that make them think that they make more money than they do. I would think a normal person would remember. In any case, I'm sure you're glad to be rid of your helpless husband and his mother. I think it's very important that you have returned to a modest life after your experience of living in a condo. I hope you continue to be happy with the way of life that suits you.
On the day of our wedding anniversary, my husband and I, along with our daughter, sat around the table and enjoyed a cheerful meal together. Towards the end of the meal, my husband pulled out a long, slender paper bag.
"Since today is our wedding anniversary, I've prepared a special wine. You like it, don't you?"
"Oh, thank you. I'm so happy."
"I'll uncork it for you. Just wait a moment. I think the wine opener was in the kitchen."
My husband said that with deliberate casualness, then got up and headed towards the kitchen. He returned shortly after with the wine poured into glasses, bringing one over to me.
"Here, please have some."
"Thank you, I'll take it." The moment I touched the wine that was offered to me, I let out a groan. I'm in so much pain." With a pained expression, I clutched my throat and collapsed on the spot. Seeing me writhing in agony, our 7-year-old daughter started crying and screaming.
"Dad! Mom! We need to call an ambulance right away."
However, my husband merely looked down at me with cold eyes as I struggled and suffered. Beside him, our daughter kept tugging at his clothes, continuing to scream for help. When I became barely able to move, my husband brushed off our daughter's arm and left the house without a word. Just after the front door closed, I slowly managed to get up. Seriously, just as I expected. My name is Meredith Shepherd. I'm a 34-year-old married woman. I'm somewhat of a recognized figure as a composer. Even after having children, I continue to provide songs for famous singers. Some songs I composed when I was single were even chosen as theme songs for dramas, which has allowed me to live a slightly more affluent life thanks to the royalties. I met my husband Kevin at the reception of a friend's wedding. He worked as a salesperson for a beer brewery, and our mutual love for alcohol brought us closer. Kevin was a bit of a free spirit, not one to think ahead, but those traits always seemed endearing to me at the time, I thought. We enjoyed drinking together on weekends and eventually got married a few years later. Soon after, we were blessed with our daughter Hazel. One thing I noticed after getting married was that Kevin hardly ever did any housework or childcare. Even after 6 months since Hazel was born, he seemed to completely ignore me, lounging on the sofa while I ran around busy. At that moment, Hazel, who was sleeping in her crib, started crying.
Hey, Meredith. Hazel's crying, you know.
Hold on. I'm using the stove right now. Could you please hold her for a bit?
Huh? It's such a hassle. Besides, Hazel probably prefers you, Mom.
With such excuses, Kevin kept his eyes glued to his phone. I sighed. I turned off the stove and comforted Hazel. Hey, Kevin, I've been meaning to say this for a while. Could you help out a bit more with household chores and childcare? Doing everything alone is really tough.
Huh? Why me?
Why? Because I also work in between, and Hazel is our child, right? As I earnestly expressed this, Kevin chuckled dismissively.
Well then, why don't we just hire a housekeeper or a babysitter?
Huh?
Meredith, you're raking in royalties, right? Shouldn't that make things a breeze for you?
It's not like that at all. I want to save money for Hazel's future. And we agreed before we got married not to raise our standard of living.
Did we? Well, anyway, I'm tired from working outside, so you should handle everything at home.
He doesn't take things seriously and responds in this manner. I eventually gave up and started handling household chores and childcare by myself. Hazel has grown up healthy and is now 6 years old. My in-laws wanted to celebrate Hazel's enrollment in elementary school, so we decided to have a dinner party. They live about an hour away by car, and we have a good relationship. My father-in-law, Keith, has a strong sense of justice and dislikes dishonesty. Although he can be strict, he's very kind to me. On the other hand, my mother-in-law, Martha, has a calm and gentle personality and is quite charming.
Grandma, thank you for buying me the school bag.
At the dinner party in the restaurant, Hazel showed off her brand new school bag.
Hazel has grown so much, and it's all thanks to Meredith.
With that, my father-in-law tilted his cup towards me. I felt embarrassed. Oh no, not at all. Hazel is such a good kid, so she makes things easier for me every day.
Well, she's my daughter after all.
Kevin said proudly for some reason. I just chuckled and let it slide. By the way, Meredith, I heard you're going to write the theme song for a movie next time. In response to my mother-in-law's voice, I answered, Yes, it's almost finished and the movie will be released next month.
Kevin, you sure got yourself an amazing wife. She's quite a catch.
Although my father-in-law addressed Kevin, he seemed inexplicably unhappy.
But, she doesn't exactly let me live luxuriously, even though she's making money,
Huh? My in-laws and I were surprised, but Kevin continued regardless.
I thought being a famous composer would mean I could live a luxurious life too, but she hardly gives me any spending money, and she's so stubborn about not raising our standard of living. She's really stingy.
Hold on, Kevin. What are you saying?
Even the luxury apartment you're living in, Meredith bought it, right?
My mother-in-law scolded him, and my father-in-law followed suit.
That's right, Kevin. In general, it's the man's responsibility to provide for the family. If you have time to rely on Meredith, why not make an effort to increase your own salary? Yeah, I got it.
When Kevin grimly acknowledged, he fell silent. Despite feeling a bit awkward, I felt grateful for my in-laws' support. Was it around that time when Kevin started coming home late every night, citing busy work? Initially, I didn't pay much attention considering that salespeople often have frequent client meetings. However, even on days off, he wasn't at home, and when he did return, he was constantly on his phone. His attitude towards Hazel also became increasingly cold. One Sunday, we had plans we made earlier in the week, so I woke up Kevin, who was still asleep, to remind him.
Dad, wake up. It's already past 9 o'clock. You said we were going out together today, remember?
Then Kevin, who was lying in bed, pushed Hazel away without saying a word. Hazel fell on her bottom, her eyes welling up with tears. Hey, what are you doing? While holding Hazel, who was crying, I protested against him, but when he got up, he looked grumpy.
I have plans today, and I wanted to sleep a little longer. You're forcing me to wake up as always.
What? That wasn't the plan. Besides pushing our daughter like that.
Shut up. You guys are annoying. Get out of the bedroom now.
Hazel and I were pushed out of the bedroom, and Kevin after that dressed up and went out somewhere. What's with that attitude? Treating Hazel like that? I can't forgive it. While trying to appease Hazel's mood, I felt my distrust towards Kevin growing. Then, one evening, a month later, I was exhausted after a deadline at work that day, so I put Hazel to bed and fell asleep early. I woke up in the middle of the night, thirsty, and when I went to the kitchen for a drink, I heard Kevin's voice chatting happily from the living room. It seemed he was talking to someone on the phone. I wondered who he was talking to. As I strained my ears, these words suddenly caught my attention.
You're the only one I love, Julia.
I widened my eyes and froze. This was undoubtedly a conversation with his affair partner. My blood boiled, and just as I was about to confront Kevin, he uttered a meaningful phrase.
The execution will be on our anniversary 3 days from now. Everything will be according to plan.
Hearing the content of the conversation, I shrank in fear. What? Kevin was cheating on me? And to think he had such a terrifying plan? I quietly recorded his conversation on my phone and returned to the bedroom before Kevin arrived. He soon came into the bedroom and started snoring heavily beside me. I couldn't sleep at all that night. The next day after Kevin went to work, I stayed home alone and organized my thoughts. At first, I was overwhelmed with sadness from the betrayal, but gradually intense anger started to build up. So that's how it is. Well, if that's the case, I have my own plans too. Just wait and see. I bought surveillance cameras from an electronics store and installed them in the house. And so, on the anniversary that arrived 3 days later, Kevin began speaking to me kindly from the morning.
Meredith, today is our wedding anniversary, right?
Yes, it is. Did you remember? I responded casually.
Of course. Lately, I've been busy with work and haven't been able to be home much. But I'll be back early today to celebrate our anniversary together as a family.
That's wonderful. I'll be preparing a feast at home, so look forward to it.
Oh, Meredith, I love you.
Kevin smiled at me and went to work as I pretended to know nothing. Meanwhile, I proceeded with the preparations for the plan methodically. As 6 p.m. approached, I waited at home, having prepared a feast for Kevin's return. Welcome home, Kevin.
Welcome back, Daddy.
Hazel seemed delighted to see Kevin returning earlier than usual. I am about to show her a hell of a scene. I silently apologized to Hazel in my mind.
Whoa, what a feast. Let's dig in right away.
We gathered around the table and enjoyed our meal with cheerful conversation. As we neared the end of the meal, Kevin pulled out a long, thin paper bag.
Today is our wedding anniversary, so I prepared a special wine. Meredith, you'll like it, right?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy.
I'll uncork it for you. Just wait a moment. Let's see, the wine opener was in the kitchen, right?
My husband says so deliberately and got up from his seat, heading towards the kitchen. Then he brought the wine poured into the glass to me.
Here you go.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll have it. The moment I put the wine offered to my lips, I let out a groan. I'm in so much pain. With a pained expression, I clutched my throat and collapsed on the spot. To see me writhing in agony, our 7-year-old daughter started crying and screaming.
Dad! Mom, we need to call an ambulance.
However, my husband only looked down at me with cold eyes as I struggled. Next to me, our daughter continued to tug at the hem of his clothes, screaming. When I became unable to move, barely breathing, my husband brushed off our daughter's arm and left the house in silence. Just after the front door closed, I slowly sat up. Wow, just as I expected.
Huh? Mom?
Seeing me acting cool, Hazel was left dumbfounded. I embraced my daughter, tears and snot covering her. Hazel, I'm sorry. This was just a prank. I'm sorry for surprising you.
Huh? A prank? Geez, Mom, I was really surprised.
There were some people watching us dumbfounded from the shadows. Kevin returned home late at night.
Hey, Hazel, are you already asleep?
Saying that, Kevin enters the house. I turn off the lights in the living room and hide in the darkness. Welcome home, Kevin.
Huh?
When I turn on the lights in the living room, Kevin gasps. Seeing me standing there nonchalantly, he collapses in shock.
You? Why?
Why aren't I dead, you mean? He looks up at me with a face almost bursting with rage as I inform him with a smile. That wine was for pretending to drink. I knew about your plan. On the day I eavesdropped on Kevin's phone call, he said such things.
You'll provide the poison, won't you? You'll get me the tasteless, odorless stuff, right? She likes wine, so if you put it in wine, she'll be all over it. Just make it look like she took her own life because of work stress. Once that woman is gone, everything will go according to plan. The insurance money on her, her royalties, this apartment, they'll all be ours. Let's start a new life with that.
When Kevin realized I had grasped the plan, he shouted angrily, his face turning red.
You? Were you eavesdropping?
Eavesdropping is such bad manners, huh? It's worse to talk about such things at home. Thanks to that, I narrowly escaped death. When I said this with a smile, Kevin began to tremble uncontrollably. He slowly took out an unfamiliar small bottle from my bag. He had probably put it there to make it look like I had taken my own life.
If I'm caught, there's no helping it. Then I'll shove this into your mouth right now. There's still time.
With a cornered expression, Kevin approached menacingly. Just as I tried to step back and escape, suddenly a loud voice echoed.
Kevin, are you not going to stop? Huh? Dad?
Standing there were his parents with a fierce expression.
Why are you and Mom here? We were called by Meredith and have been here since evening. Huh? We've been watching the footage from the cameras set up in another room all this time. I saw you pouring the contents of the bottle into the wine glass and putting it into Meredith's bag. My father-in-law pointed to a single surveillance camera. It captured the entire scene of my husband's actions, which his parents hiding in another room watched. Kevin had a shocked expression upon noticing the camera's presence. That's not all. I also recorded the contents of the conversations you had on the phone that day. I played back the recorded audio on the spot. His parents grimaced at the disgusting contents, and Kevin turned pale. Recorded phone calls and camera footage, and the wine you left unfinished earlier. With this much evidence, handing you over to the police will be easy. No, please.
Kevin first crawled towards his parents.
Dad, Mom, help me. You don't want your son to become a criminal, do you? You idiot.
My father-in-law hit Kevin with all the force he could muster. His mother scorned him as he was sent flying, looking at him like he was a piece of filth.
Trying to kill Meredith was one thing, but what about that attitude towards crying Hazel? You're a disgrace as a human being. We no longer see you as our son. We've already reported to the police a while ago. They should be arriving soon. You're going to behave yourself quietly.
Realizing he had been abandoned by his parents, Kevin staggered towards me with a tear-streaked and snotty face.
Meredith.
What is it? Don't come near me.
Meredith, please forgive me. If you don't press charges against me, I can avoid arrest. I only love you. Let's live happily together again with Hazel.
I shouted at Kevin. Are you out of your mind? Who forgives someone who tried to take their life?
I'm sorry. I'll do anything. Please.
I'll never forgive you or your mistress. You'll pay for your sins behind bars at most. In the next moment, Kevin slumped dejectedly as sirens approached from afar. Through lawyers, our divorce was finalized. Kevin's parents paid a hefty sum as compensation for the trouble. Kevin's affair partner seemed to be a pharmacy student. She tried to take my life by using poison obtained from the university. When I demanded compensation from her, her parents wired the money. I've decided I won't forgive her either. Kevin went behind bars, but neither his parents nor I visited him. They say they'll take Kevin in once he's released. They promised to find him work on a tuna fishing boat through relatives. If he never comes near me and Hazel again, that's fine. On the other hand, I've moved to a distant place with my daughter and lead a peaceful life. I told Hazel, Daddy went far away for work. But when she said,
he doesn't need to come back anymore,
I couldn't help but smile a little. From now on, I will look forward to my daughter's growth, work hard at my job, and live positively.